everyone, welcome to Reading Habits program. Today is my turn to share some important information about my reading habits. It's so interesting that you can keep reading and also buy some types or books because you can expand your knowledge. Now I'm gonna give some advice for your reading habits. So let's start. First of all, to start with reading habits, I'm gonna ask one question for all of you. So, do you know how many categories of books are? Think about it. No, don't you know? So, categories of books are two: fiction and non-fiction books. In my principal case, I prefer non-fiction books. Non-fiction books is like memoirs, autobiographies, biographies, and travel as well. I prefer that type of book because you can imagine the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the story. So it's so interesting that you can imagine the story of the books through biography of different writers. The picture that I just showed you is about my favorite book. My favorite book is called Angela Sachs' book. Angela Sachs' book was written by Frank McCourt. He was born in 1930. I didn't know he had died in 2009, so I feel very surprised when I knew that. I can't get enough of Memoirs book, because it's a cliffhanger, a fast read as well. This is a perfect example for Memoirs book. In this book, the author tried to explain his childhood and also his early adulthood when he lived in New York and Ireland as well. He tried to explain about his family because he stayed with his parents and he had four siblings as well. But the younger sister, his name was Margaret, died just a few months after birth. Was really really sad. And also he explained about his poverty life because his parents didn't didn't get enough money, so he had to work when he was 11. Um, in the other hands, was really difficult for him try to grow up, and he tried to describe some anecdotes and stories around his family. This book was a really really and recommend excellent book. I prefer books about that time. I don't know, because it's really amazing when you try to imagine the context of that time. This time specific is about 1930, and also explain about New York Deep when New York sank to the deepest. So he told in his history about this. Um, this is one of another scanner book that I loved. Um, the other thing is that I like books about the Second World War. Um, the Second World War has many particular books. The girl that I showed was Anne Frank. Anne Frank wrote a diary. This is another book that I liked. During the Nazi occupation of Netherlands, she received a diary and when she was 13. After 1 week almost, um, their family decided to hide them in a second floor back to the library. So her family were her parents, and she had an older sister as well. Um, she decided to hide them with another family, and she started to write about the in the diary um, during 2 years. After this time, the Nazi saw them, so they decided send that family to the concentration camp. And was so sad because when the Second World War finished, almost all her family, including herself, diet. So the only person that survived was her father, and he tried to show in all work about the diary, but people didn't believe him because they thought that he was a liar, and was really difficult for him try to understood for another people about the ants Fran diary. I really recommend that book because it's a seller book. It's a bestseller book. It's not hard to follow, and also has been writing in many language. So it's really interesting. Try to back to that time and try to understand how lived that people. Um, I gonna I would like to show you a carpos. This is a carpos in the museum. The museum is in Netherlands and in Amsterdam. I had an opportunity to know that museum 4 years ago. Was an incredible experience because you felt that you are in that time, and you try to back in the time as well. And the originally diary had has there, so I gonna show you original pictures that I took in that place. The last part of our program is about a questions time. In this part, I gonna to answer some questions that you have done for me. So the time is so short. I just have three pieces of paper. In each one, I have one question. I'm gonna to answer that question, but every single question is about my favorite book. So it's about Angela Sachs' book. If you have another question for me, you can write me, and in the next program we can answer together. So let's start. The first question is, would you tell me when Angela Sachs was published? Well, Angela Sachs published in 1996. The second question is, do you know where Frank McCourt is from? Well, Frank McCourt is from Irish, but almost all his life was in America, so he's an Irish American. And the last question is, would you tell me if it had an award? Angela Sachs' book? Yeah, Angela Sachs' book won a Pulitzer Prize for biography or autobiography type or book. So um, we have in the end of the program. I hope this information had been very interesting for all of you. See you next week in the Reading Habits program. Bye.